Today I'm talking about 20 mistakes that I've made as a wedding filmmaker over the last 11 years. Whew. All right, let's get into it. Number one is being impulsive. So when I first got started and I was making really good money filming weddings, I was really bad at making decisions. I was just too impulsive when it came to buying new gear. I was too impulsive when it came to booking couples. I was saying yes to everyone and not really taking my time to really decide if this is really the right fit for me. And it didn't really matter because I was just money hungry. I was in the infancy of my business and I was just trying to build a portfolio, build a reputation. But honestly, that impulsive behavior led to a ton of bad money-making decisions that I'm still remedying in my business today, if I'm being honest. So if you really want stability, you want long-term success in this industry, having some forethought, being thoughtful and careful when you are making decisions, that is going to help you long term. Number two is comparison. Now, I'm sure you've heard this before, but comparison is really the thief of joy. And if you do it too often, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy, a lowered self-esteem, and give you unnecessary stress because you have so many unique strengths and potential as a filmmaker. And if you are doing nothing but comparing your work to others, you are stifling your creativity because you are just trying to copy other people versus trying to create a distinction within your own unique style. Now, the benefits of comparison can help you take away things from other people that can help you improve. But if it starts to take away things that make you, takes away your joy, that's when you should really dial it back. And I know it's easier said than done, but try your best to just analyze your feelings when you're watching other people's work. If it makes you happy, then hey, keep going. If it makes you sad, just turn it off. Number three is not being organized. If you are unorganized in your business, you are setting yourself up to fail. Because I have learned that what can be measured can be improved. Having a way to measure how many leads are coming in the door, how many of those leads are converting to bookings, what's your profit and your loss, what's your monthly expenses, do you have automated email communication set up? There's so much that goes into running a business and growing a business, and really, in my opinion, it starts with getting organized. Number four is undervaluing yourself and overbooking yourself. Basically, you're overworked and you're underpaid. And I think we're all guilty of undervaluing our work. I mean, when we first get started into weddings, it's not like we can jump to this luxury price point right from the start because we have to build our portfolio, our reputation, etc., etc. But as we transition, I think this is where we can kind of get lost in feeling a little bit doubtful and fearful of jumping to an elevated price point because we're uncertain if people are really going to buy it. But the trap you can fall into is by pricing yourself too cheap, having too much work on your plate because you're having to compensate by more weddings to just make ends meet and you're working paycheck to paycheck. You really want to make sure that your price is factoring in your fixed costs, monthly expenses, your tax obligations, general cost of living, so that you don't have to overwork yourself, get burnout, and lose that joy of creating. Number five is contracts. Now, you want to protect yourself and your couples by using contracts. Fun fact, in 2014, I almost got sued over a disagreement over the product that I delivered. There's lots more ins and outs to that story. If you want to hear more about that story, I have a podcast episode dedicated to just that, so you can find that above. But it really taught me the importance of contracts and having those safeguards in your business to protect you, protect your couple, protect your employees. Contracts help set expectations, and the more that you can communicate those expectations, generally the better the outcome will be. Mistake number six is overlooking the client experience. Now, for me, I am a huge advocate for creating an unrivaled experience for every single couple. It starts with a consultation and it doesn't end until even after the wedding day, especially when you're delivering your wedding films. And for the longest time, I was sending a very boring YouTube link to my clients, and it just didn't have any kind of feeling or intentionality behind of it. It was just a very cut and dry, here's your video, have a nice day. And I just didn't like that. And that's where I found VidFlow to be so beneficial when it comes to enhancing my client experience. And if you're interested in checking out VidFlow, you can use my code Wayward at checkout when you sign up for their service. Number seven is ego. Now, I think this is something that's probably always going to exist in the wedding industry just because of its nature. You know, in 2017 to 2018, I had the worst ego imaginable. I only cared about myself. I only valued my art over the couple's goals. I got easily frustrated when other creatives impeded on my process. And honestly, I had no reason to be this egocentric. But what I've learned over the years, and I'm thankful for this experience, is that by prioritizing the couple's goals over your own selfish ambitions, inevitably leads to a better end product. Makes you feel a lot more inspired because you're truly creating from a place of authenticity and pure intentions, and you're not seeking to glorify yourself over someone else's wedding day. Number 8, relying too much on photographers. So as an introvert in this industry, one area that always intimidated me early on was speaking up when I needed to capture a specific shot. I was timid, I was meek, and I ended up just remaining in the shadows, only relying on the photographer's creativity to help me create a beautiful film. And the problem with that is not every photographer is made the same. There's so many different styles, and if you are relying on your photographer at every single wedding to help you get the shots that you need, your film, your brand is going to be incredibly inconsistent. It's going to lack consistency, and there's not going to be a distinction because you're leaving the vision up to the photographer. And it really wasn't until I started building confidence and trusting my own instincts that helped me create distinction within my brand, because I was creating from a place of my own perspective versus solely relying on the photographer's creativity. Number 9, being unprepared. Wedding days are unpredictable because people are unpredictable, and you want to prepare for the unexpected so that you don't run into any roadblocks creatively and risk ruining your film's potential to be great because you just weren't ready for a certain moment. Sometimes the bride surprises the groom with a very special, unique dance. Sometimes the dad surprises the bride and groom with an impromptu speech. Truth be told, these things happen more often than not. So the more questions you can ask your couple, the planner, stay in the know on the wedding day, the better your end product can be. Number 10 is a sales tax mishap. So in 2019, I received an audit from the state, and they discovered that I hadn't paid sales tax in 3 years because I didn't know that I had to pay sales tax on a digital product. And that ignorance cost me $30,000. Yeah, so if you want to hear more about that story, you can find it above. Number 11, endless revisions. When you are a people pleaser, you end up doing things out of kindness versus following procedure. I would often get caught up in a web of revision after revision, wasting so much time and energy just to make sure that the couple was happy no matter what. And to some extent, you should always try to go above and beyond for your clients and do everything in your power to make them happy, but within reason. And I think that whole sepia bride thing is a prime example of you can't make everyone happy, so that you should have safeguards in your business to protect your time, protect your resources. And so for me, what I learned early on was that I need a clause in my contract that states how many revisions is allotted per film. This way I don't get caught up in the hamster wheel of endless revisions and hating myself for even going into wedding filmmaking. All right, moving on. Number 12, too much gimbal. Oftentimes using a gimbal, we can get carried away, but as long as you're being intentional with your movement and you're being mindful of how you are capturing the moment, then by all means, keep using your gimbal. The problem that I would fall into was I was just using movement for the heck of it because I had a gimbal, so I'm just gonna do circles around you for no reason at all. But the name of the game is just being intentional with your framing and your movement. Number 13, not outsourcing sooner. I am a huge advocate for outsourcing now that I found Uncut Gems, because I can tell you for 100% of a fact that by outsourcing, by delegating things that don't really bring you as much joy as they used to, can be so incredibly freeing for yourself, for your business. It helps you actually grow your business because you're not bound to the computer day in, day out, doing all the things that just really weigh you down. And if you're interested in checking out Uncut Gems, I have a coupon code for 65% off on your first edit if you use code Wayward65 at checkout. So if you want to check them out, the link will be down below. Number 14 is isolating. Now, when you dive headfirst into entrepreneurship, you are trading an office full of companions to an office of one. And no one really prepares you for how lonely that can be. And through isolation can lead to feelings of self-doubt, insecurity, fear, because it's only you. You are responsible for the success and the failure of this venture. You are the only one that has to make these tough decisions. which is why I definitely recommend getting plugged into some kind of community, especially one that has like-minded entrepreneurs who deal with the same things that you do on a daily basis. People that can speak words of wisdom into your day-to-day to help you feel more inspired and kick that isolation in the face so that you can keep doing what you love every single day. And that's what my community, Small Town Filmmaker, really aims to achieve. So if you're interested in checking that out, there will be a link in the description as well. Number 15, thinking I knew everything. Now this kind of goes along with ego, but it's also important to talk about. After a certain number of weddings, you think you know it all. But the truth is, you don't know as much as you think you do. And this mentality is honestly detrimental to your growth, because if you think you know it all, then you have nothing to learn. That's why I'm always challenging myself to think like a beginner, to be a beginner again. Because there's so much more to learn. There's so many perspectives out there to learn things from. And if we embrace these new perspectives, we can elevate our end product and we can get better and better and better. Number 16, this is a fun one. Dating a coworker. Yikes, Jared. Let's just get all the personal shit out there. Let's go ahead and get some tea over with here. So this mistake is one obviously I'm definitely not proud of, but it's important to talk about for anyone who may be in this position. I don't know, I'm getting flustered. So in 2018, I decided to scale my business and offer photography as another service. So I hired a photographer to lead the charge for photography. And this went really well for a while. A little too well, if you catch my drift. But long story short, it did not end well. And we had several weddings on the books for the remainder of that year, and I had to find another photographer to help me get through the rest of that year. It just created a lot of unwanted stress, and honestly, it was just a bad business decision to do that. So yeah, don't date a coworker. Number 17, over-investing in your second shooters. When you are paying people to help you, you should be kind and appreciative of their time, but you also need to be smart. You need to factor in the budget for the entire wedding and break it down piece by piece. What's your monthly fixed cost? What's your tax obligations here? And how much can you safely set aside for assistance that doesn't eat into your bottom line? My mistake, I would often hire second shooters that I didn't need, or pay them more just so that I could have someone with me on the wedding day because I didn't want to film the wedding by myself because I'm a little bitch. So set aside your feelings and kindness within reason, of course, and just be smart with how you're delegating your cash. Number 18, good Lord, this video is gonna be long. Having an identity crisis every single year. So I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but for me, I felt like I was a new filmmaker every single year. My films were just wildly inconsistent. I was trying to be this filmmaker and then that filmmaker, and then my brand just looked like an amalgam of shit. My films ultimately didn't look and feel like me at all. And it's easy to get lost in the trends. It's easy to get caught up in the allure of what other filmmakers are doing because it's just magical, it's just ethereal, it's just this cinematic goodness right in front of your eyes, and you think, I want that. That's what I want my films to look like. And then you get your films to look like, and then you want something else, and then you want something else. And it's just a hamster wheel. It's just a trap. My films ultimately didn't look and feel like me at all, and it's easy to get lost in the trends and in the web of beautiful work that you just kind of lose yourself in the process. But it's important to focus on emulating others so that you learn the techniques. You don't emulate to copy, you emulate to build off of your own uniqueness so that you can build your own novelty product. My eye is like twitching constantly. Number 19, missing scheduled consultations. This is no joke. I have missed a lot of potential meetings with couples for whatever reason. I schedule a call with a potential client and I get caught up in my own ADHD. I get distracted because my mind's a cluttered mess, and then you get that text message that says, hey, so are we still meeting today? Oh, it's the worst. I've certainly gotten better at not missing meetings because of, the technology that there is today. It's like giving myself all these reminders. But when it does happen, it makes you feel just like a complete failure. Like, I just don't know how to run a business. I'm terrible at this. But honestly, just give yourself some grace. We're all human. We all get distracted, and we're in an age now where it's the age of distractions. It's getting worse and worse. All right, and last but not least, because this video is going to be like an hour long at this point, it's just lack of communication on the wedding day. Probably one of the most important and crucial mistakes that I know I've certainly made a ton of times when it comes to filming weddings, and that's just the lack of communication. Or relying too much on someone's experience and realizing that, well, experience won't always cater to your needs as a filmmaker. Your process is going to be different than another creative's process. So it's just important to make sure that you are properly communicating on the day, before the day, after the day. Over communication is honestly the best practice if you want to create a truly beautiful wedding film and end product and experience for everyone involved. All right, guys, well, that has been my 20 mistakes for wedding filmmaking over the last 10 years. There's a ton more. I mean, I could make like a whole list of mistakes that I've certainly made, but I hope this video has been helpful and valuable to you in some way. If it was, drop a comment below. Let me know, what was your favorite mistake on this list? Is there a mistake that I didn't list that you've made that you feel comfortable sharing? Either way, I'd love to hear from you guys. So until next time, keep creating and telling beautiful stories. Peace.